Hi, friends. Welcome. Wow, that rain is loud. Okay, so I'm a little early, so I'm going to give everyone a moment to log on. And in the meantime, I will tell you about your classes. You should check your email and double check what your teachers are choosing to do for the rest of the next 2 weeks. Where did my screen go? There it is. For the next 2 weeks before spring break, they are asking teachers to teach online. So my other classes like landscape painting and life, those are all going to go online. So hopefully you got my email. Some of us got to go to the Museum of Contemporary Art this week, and that was really great. I guess that show is still open for another 2 days if you want to see Graciela Iturbide. And someone's telling me something. Yeah, so all my classes are going online is basically what I'm trying to say. So landscape painting, life drawing, we're gonna do it online. Somebody's loud. So you'll get emails from me on how we're gonna do that Monday and Tuesday for watercolor, landscape, and life drawing. So you will not go to the JCC or wherever your classes are, but check in with your teacher specifically, because some of these teachers don't know how to do online, so they may just cancel for the next 2 weeks. So I'm not sure. I'm just letting you know what I know, which is that I'm going to put my classes online because this is easy for me, and we'll be fine. I found great videos of how to do life drawings, and we'll just work on it together. You'll still be able to see me draw and everything. So yes, coronavirus is out there, and we need to protect you and yourself and family and friends. So just, stay inside, wash your hands. That's all I have to say about that. Anyway, so plenty of time to make art now, right? So to the lesson here, this is my favorite, one of my favorite lessons. Is actually the first lesson I ever taught in this class. The very first lesson I ever taught, Titian and Kyle Staver. It's even the inspiration for the class because I was looking at Titian and I was looking at Kyle Staver's work, and I realized they were both painting Greek myth, but 500 years apart, which I found really interesting. So that's actually what started my interest in this, in how I would teach this class with 2 artists, one from art history and one contemporary living artist, was really because of Kyle Staver and Titian. So we have them to thank for art appreciation. Now, Titian, we don't, of course, when someone lived 500 years ago, it's very hard to know personal things about them unless the journals were written or correspondence that they can find. There was no obvious telephones. So Titian, living in 1488, meet someone. So again, it's really important that you figure out how to hit the button that's in your settings that says mute when you log on. And if you really can't figure out how to do that, please email me so we can figure it out, or just wait until this is recorded and I'll put it at the bottom of the lesson. Because if you're coming in late and you're logging in and then we can hear all your shuffling, it completely throws off my train of thought. And that happened 15 times in the last class. And I want to record that lesson because there was also delays in the thing, but just in general, please figure out how to hit that setting. Anyway, so Titian, 1488, Italy, lives in Italy, dies in Italy, high Renaissance. We're talking about the master here. We're talking about the main man. I'm always surprised that in younger history classes in high school, they talked about Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci. Why didn't I know about Titian in high school? I don't understand. I also went to a very small high school with not a lot of great education, but I did have a great art teacher. Anyway, so the point here is that this is my favorite Renaissance painter. Things that decipher him slightly different. Michelangelo. I forget. High Renaissance, Italian Renaissance, regular Renaissance, you get the point. We're talking about epic figures in landscapes, doing epic things, a lot of religious paintings, but also a lot of Greek myth paintings. Some of you may know your Greek myths better than I do, but I'll do the best that I can. Things to notice about Titian is his amazing ability to carry you through an image with pathways of people. You can just sort of see like a line through the painting. It brings you in with the cloth, and you can travel all the way through these many, many people. We find it a feat today to paint one figure, and this guy's painting, you know, 10, 20 figures in a painting, massive scale. It's just really incredible stuff. So let's take a look at the PowerPoint here. Back to this photograph of the handout that you received. Not too much information on him again, but just so you know, he was the top of the top. He studied under Bellini and Veronese, I forget. And then living a good life, selling his works, working with the people who are buying and commissioning his work his whole life, basically known as a prodigy. Kyle Staver is living and working in Brooklyn. She's married, she has a couple kids, she went to Yale. Her studio's in her house, and we got to go on a studio visit to her house, which was really cool. She has cats and turtles, and they're so cute. The cats are always in the studio bouncing around, and she's a really great lady. She really understands composition and tone and color, and she's also painting Greek myth in 2020. What I find exciting about her work is, as a female artist, she sort of changes some of the ends of the stories occasionally to benefit the woman or to help the woman. So let's take a look at some of the works. So 1953, well, that was, I put 65 years, I made this a couple years ago. So then, oh, and born in Minnesota. So I always notice this with our artists. They normally went to Yale, and they normally got a Guggenheim, like all the ones that are succeeding currently in the world right now. Apparently that is the formula to becoming a successful artist. You must go to Yale and then get a Guggenheim. No big deal. Okay, so just to give you a little detail on, this is Diane and Actaeon, the painting by Titian. Some nice, interesting things we could think about when we look at this piece is there's the storyline, which is Actaeon walking up and seeing Diane bathing, and she is not happy about it. He is not supposed to see her bathing in the nude, and he's walking through the forest, and he just happens upon a goddess in the nude, and she is, you can see this is her covering herself with the towel, and there are all these women who are being noticed and in the privacy of bathing in the forest, I guess, and upset that they have been caught. So what does she do? Well, there's multiple endings to the story, but what she does in this painting by Titian is she hits him with an arrow and turns him into a stag, and then the dogs eat him. These stories are gruesome. Look at the paint quality here. Look how thick the paint and how loose the paint is. You can literally see the brushstrokes in this painting. Now put yourself in the Renaissance period and think about Michelangelo and how smooth those paintings were and how wild and crazy it is to consider the brushwork that he's using in these paintings. Really beyond his time. Here is Kyle Staver's version of the same story. So in the first panel, She talks about how she wants the prince to look like, or she wants it to look like a Disney prince, and sort of, she creates much more cartoon-like, I don't know if that's the appropriate word, but obviously these are not fully rendered figures, proportionate female and male proportions, but they are more of from her head. They are figurative, but they are loose paint, figurative elements. And what I want you to really look at is her light sources, where she chooses to illuminate, and just absolutely how much dark she uses to create that illumination in her work. So here in her story, here's the prince coming along. He catches her bathing in the second one, and in the third one, she's turned him into a stag and torn to shreds by his own dogs. So that's her version of the story. You may be familiar with Icarus. Icarus built some wings for himself out of wax and feathers, and then he was told not to fly too high to the sun because his wings would melt, and he did it anyway, and then his wings melted and he falls to the sea, and he drowns. Another lovely story. But here you can see the comparison of the two works. You definitely know that Kyle was taking a look at some Titian. We have different movement. They both have a lot of movement. Often Kyle Staver's figures take up, I'd say, like the majority of the canvas. We often think about the figure being in a very, 1/3 of the canvas, and she's really zoomed in, simplified the image, and used light to create a really interesting moment. She almost always backlights her figures. So the figures are dark and the background is lit, and then there's some illumination from those figures. If you look on the left, we have a very similar figure falling from the sky with his wings melting from flying too high to the sun. And here we have multiple figures and still very interesting movement. Can you imagine try drawing a figure falling from the sky and see what you come up with just from your head. See if you can capture that. Having these figures, he often used old sculptures to look at because the past work was very much destroyed, earlier work, so he had to look at sculptures for the figures. I think you know this story as well, David and Goliath. Although we have two very different experiences of this painting. We have a very, something, you could flip through any history book and see a painting like this of David and Goliath. He has a much more smooth effect in this painting. You can see almost outlined like Michelangelo's work. He must have had some influence in this painting by him. With the smoothness, and if you've ever been to the Sistine Chapel, it's almost as if you can literally pull a figure off and place it somewhere else. They're like cutouts. Look at the darks and lights in Titian's painting, where the light source is coming down, very interesting. And then look at Kyle's light source coming down. I have to turn my heater off. I am melting. Hold on. Woo! Got hot talking about art. So I love these two paintings. Again, checking out the figures, checking out the looseness. I love the curves of her arms and her forms, and all the movement that's happening in her work. You can see how much she uses diagonals, she uses light sources, she uses simplicity, but also in a very profound way. These are not easy subjects to tackle. If you know any Greek myth or any personal myth from your culture, it would be great for you to try to draw one of those out. I've been studying some Mayan stories and thinking about how I can use some of those layered into my paintings. Adam and Eve, another one that you're familiar with. Eve picking the apple here, and All right, I'm just curious how many people we had on. And Adam standing by, and in Kyle's piece, he is holding a goat. I don't know why. I don't know why he's holding a goat, but that's her. Sorry, I muted myself instead of someone else. So we have the, look at the backlighting here, right next to her hair. Isn't that amazing? You can see this sliver of light peeking through the trees, and it's just barely hitting these goats. I don't know why there's goats in the painting. Maybe you want to do research on that. Of course, we know the story here of Adam and Eve. Don't pick from this tree. And here she is picking from the tree. Andromeda and Perseus. Let's see. This is, Andromeda is the daughter of Ethiopian king Cepheus and his wife Cassiopeia. And Cassiopeia leads her to the boat. Andromeda is more beautiful than these ones, sends sea monster to ravage Andromeda as divine punishment. So here's the sea monster attacking her, and then Andromeda is stripped and chained naked to a rock as a sacrifice state to the monster, but is saved from death by Perseus. We'll look at that next. So here's the sea monster, and here's the battle happening with the sea monster. Again, it's so interesting to see these two paintings right side by side, the exact same topic, 500 years apart. I mean, it just, you know what it's done for me is it's made me appreciate Greek myth, which I didn't appreciate before. I didn't really pay much attention. It's given me a new appreciation for some of these stories because she's reclaimed them in ways, and she's re-enlivened them. And not that I don't appreciate Titian. Of course, we know I absolutely love Titian. But there's something to be said about a woman painter doing it in a contemporary time, and something that you can relate to, and paint application that you can relate to, that really makes it powerful. So here's Perseus, the punishment of, oh, sorry, Prometheus, excuse me, and the eagle coming down to eat out his insides every day. Eternal torment. So again, like, not my favorite subject matter specifically in this one, but I can definitely appreciate the quality of the paint in both of them. The composition, I can appreciate the tone, I can appreciate the diagonals, the movement. It's really hard to make movement in a still image, isn't it? To make something look like it's flying in air, like it's about to attack him, that it's seconds away, or that it is already taking a bite out of him. You know, the movement of the figures, the diagonals, even the simple rocks behind the figure that sort of create this blue shape behind. Really interesting stuff to think about when you look at a painting. When I look at a painting, I try to make sure that I try to make sure that I look at the corners. So here's a corner, here's a corner, here's a corner, and here's a corner. There's something going on in each corner. There's something, a lot of times we forget our corners when we're making art. Look at this corner, there's a snake in it on a rock. More symbolism comes in. You often have pathways leading you into the paintings from the left-hand side that then carry you out through the other side, or keep you circling back in through the painting. And then those are the last, that's the last of the PowerPoint for that. And then I just wanted to draw some attention to Kyle Staver had an opening last night at Zerker Gallery in New York City. So this show will be up for a month. And these are some of her new paintings. I haven't had a moment to find out if they are about Greek myth or if they're other subjects now, but I just thought I'd share these new pieces that my friend sent me last night. This one's Medusa. That's pretty easy to see. There's a horse with a wrap around its eye and holding up a Medusa head under the moonlight. So if you know what some of these are about, here's a woman riding a bull. That's pretty cute. And she did do several with Leda and the Swan in the past, and this one is three swans and a woman, so I'm not sure about this one. But anyway, just so you can see her new work. If you're going to New York, I don't think anyone's traveling right now, but the show is up, and yeah, I just wanted to show you these images. So if you want to see more from them, there are some wonderful videos on the website here. So they're uploading now, but you can click and watch the videos, read the handouts. It's often hard. I don't get that many articles about the current artist, but this is a great lecture that she did. So really good way to get familiar with what she's thinking about if you're interested in that. And now I'll open it up to any questions if anyone has a question about either of these artists. Well, we had a pretty smooth run today. That was great. I was able to really get through that pretty quick. So thank you again for muting your settings. And I'm not sure that you can mute those settings with a phone unless you're using the app, but please do your best to try to figure out how to mute yourself so that you don't distract when you log on to the class, because it is really hard for me to keep my train of thought when that happens. I also added a few of these beautiful lithographs that she did at the bottom. And she really is a master of tone. Look at the lithograph of the painting we just showed with the swans. And you can really easily see the darks, midtones, and lights in her work. So I'll leave you with that. Enjoy her, enjoy Titian, and I hope you have a great week. Look out for me sending you some more emails for the other classes, as I'll be working on creating, we'll have a drawing session online together for the other classes. Anyway, thank you. Stay well, wash your hands, take care of yourself. Best. Have a great day. Bye.